Now that it's finally warmed up, I thought we might be thinking of the beach or the water, some seagulls. And here is a really beautiful picture that I did, and actually quite simple. I have three seagulls in this. I put two in my other one, but it's basically seagulls and a wave cresting. Please note that biggest thing is right over here. The shape of the letter C is very important because that is going to give you the feel of the wave curling. You can place your seagulls wherever you want, as many as you want, and the rest you will find amazing. We're going to use salt and a lot of blotting to get the foam on the wave. Okay, so whether you have one, two, or three seagulls, that's going to be completely up to you. It depends on the size of your paper. All right, first thing before we start, you will need some salt, sea salt or kosher salt. So keep that handy, and plenty of tissues to blot out where the foam of the wave is. Okay, so we're going to start off first with wetting the sky with your water. And when you do this, yes, we do have to work quickly, but you want to go around the seagulls. And we will probably have to change the color and go back in here, but at this point, we're just going to wet around the seagulls because we do not want to paint them. Okay? So you're going to do that. And when you draw your seagulls, try to make them at different angles, very random, different heights, so it doesn't look like you planned it out. And when you come down here, you want to make this an irregular up and down because this is where the wave is cresting, okay? So now I'm going to put a little bit of lavender. I didn't want everything to be blue, so I'm going to put a little of that, maybe a little pink with it to get more of the color I want. And notice that it is just going around the seagull. We can add a little blue to it. Absolutely, it is the sky. So we're going to have this blend together. That's why we did wet on wet, so that the colors will blend. And if they're not blending, add some water and it will blend, okay? If you go over your seagull like I just did, it's not a terrible thing. Okay, so at this point, I'm actually going to make it a little bit darker down here because I am going to be putting my white foam in and I want it to show up. So remember, the light will show up more if it's next to something that is darker. So we don't want the bottom of the sky to be too light. All right? Okay, and I'm going to sprinkle salt on that right now because that's going to make it look like a spray from the curl of the wave and the foam splashing out. And make sure it was plenty wet so you can see the salt is actually absorbing this, absorbing the pigment. Now I'm going to come right down to the bottom and wet that. And I'm going to put a little bit of a ochre color, like a sand color, not that much, just to kind of show that the sand is underneath the water in some spots. So it's very light, little bit here and there. And we probably will put some blue over it, but just so this can come through. All right. A little more water. Now the big trick with the wave is to make a C shape, like the letter C. Let me bring my painting over again, my original painting. Okay, and in here where it's darker, this is the C I'm talking about, okay? All of your strokes are going to be like this. This part we're going to blot with our tissue and sprinkle salt. But this is like the letter C. So you make your C and come across, okay? That's what we're going to be doing. And actually, I don't even have to wait with this. We can just get right to business. I'm going to start off with my cerulean blue. And I'm going to start off with that at this end. Okay. A little bit more water. It's very, very light. Remember, you could go back in here and make things darker. So don't worry about if it's too light to start. And then I'll mix the blue with the cerulean, so I'm gradually getting darker. Notice how I'm keeping my C shape. Don't be frightened that this came out so dark, because you know what? We know it always dries lighter. I'm actually going to even use my spray bottle that I usually keep handy for some water to spread this out and make it irregular. That's going to help me. And I will continue. Notice I'm leaving this big white spot. But here we're just going to let this come in a C shape. Right over the sand. This doesn't look like much of a C shape, but what I have to do is get my tissue, crunch it up, and start to blot into it to make it look like the C is crushing over it. I will even put a little very light blue up in here so that when I smooch it with my tissue, I will have shades of blue and white. It won't be just white. Okay, we're going to put a little bit more. And this is a wave, and there are so many different waves, and they're all, some are high, some are low, some are very forceful. So if yours does not look exactly like mine, guess what? It's no big deal at all. No big deal. Putting this, while it's wet, I'm starting to get more of that C curve. And I'm going to blot this up in here. I think I'm even going to come down a little bit darker up in here so that we can see where the wave is starting to crush from where the sky is. Kind of just mush that right up there so it doesn't look like I outlined it. And I'm going to go back in here and try and create my C shape. Keep remembering that C shape. If you have to take your tissue and make it, that's okay too. As long as you have that definite feeling of the wave curling. Very, very important. We're going to get a little darker under here in some spots. Make sure it's irregular. Do not try to copy mine exactly. Get some of that cerulean blue in here to mix with the other colors. Okay, I may sprinkle a little salt down here also for the foam. And my wave actually needs, the crest of the wave, a little more color so that we could actually see where the white is. So if you have any pure white, let it be, and just add a little color to the rest of it so that we can see the white and then what would be light blue and gray and colors like that. So sprinkle some salt on that too, especially if it's nice and wet. And my trusty tissue again. So you need to play with this a little until you like the way it looks, because you could never duplicate this exactly a second time. So you're definitely going to keep at it. I'm going to go back over the top part over here with a little lavender. But see how silly that looks? So I have to definitely wet it and bring it up. If you work quickly, you can do this. It may make a few blooms, but in this kind of painting, that's never a problem. Okay? I think under here I might want to make this purple come up a little more. Right under his wing, because this is a seagull, a white bird. So how is he going to show up if the sky is white at that point? So we might want to put some purple or pink, some blue on the other side. And don't make it look like you patched it in over there. You want it to look like that's the color of the sky all over, not just, oh, it has to be darker here, so let me take care of that. A little too much on his wing, so we're going to do that. All right. I think we're pretty good. I'm going to let this dry for a little bit and then go back in and add some finishing touches. See you in a few. Okay, now we're back, and this is dried. I like the way it came out. I especially like where the salt is, and it created this nice little spray of water. And I'm going to brush the salt off. I don't need it any longer. You can throw it out, whatever you want, okay? So get it nice and smooth. And I did paint this seagull to have it done, but I will demonstrate this one. So what I'm going to do is use some lavender and some bluish gray, and of course leave some of the bird white. So little lavender with gray mixed into it, right about here. If I put it over here, have something on here, better. And also on the other side, and I am going to wet that and spread it out. Here we go. Right so we see this dip in his wing, so that one side of the wing is darker, that's the underneath portion, and the other side is lighter. To shade the wing, okay? And now I'm just going to take a little of the color and put a few little feathers on here. And I'm going to make it darker right in here to show that we have a little curve of his wing. Right in here like that. And also over here to accentuate the curve. Add a little water to that. And you have your seagulls done. Let's put a little bit on his body so he doesn't look like he's just white, pure white. They're actually very dirty birds, eating mostly garbage left behind by us lovely humans. Okay, since this bird is dry, I can actually use a tiny brush and a little Payne's Gray, and I can put in, I'm only going to put one eye as if his head is turning. I thought I was going to put one eye. Okay, and the beak on the side a little bit. Some legs, feet. Okay, and I'm just going to blot it because I don't want it too black. Otherwise, it's going to look a little artificial. Okay, now my other thing, upon looking at my wave, this part looks great. Okay, I mean, I probably could accentuate this a little more, but this part kind of just faded out. So I need to go back in here with a little blue and kind of, this is all outlined, but then nothing happens here. So I'm going to put a very kind of zigzaggy look and immediately put your water on it. So it doesn't look like it's an outline. And I'm going to actually use a slightly larger brush and some cerulean to mix in with that. And remember at the beginning I told you about this letter C shape? That's not there very clearly, so I want to go back in there and make that shape because that's really important. It does look like a wave like this, but why not make it a little more? Now you don't have to do yours exactly like mine, but you do want to make sure that you can see this letter C in here, sort of, to accentuate the shape of the wave. Bring it up even in here a little, because this is very light in here and we need to get this a little more distinct. Now this looks too regular, so I'm going to dab it and dot a little more, make it a little more regular. And remember, that's a really good place for the salt when I get the color on. I think I'm gonna make it a little darker, a little more cerulean mixed in here. Bringing it down. Another thing that you can do is actually tilt your paper so that the paint begins to run in the color direction that you want. Now I don't want it straight down. Remember, I want it to go across, so we've got to get that in there. Okay, now I'm going to sprinkle a little more salt on it, right at this ridge, so that we could create more foam. We just made that ridge, so the rest of it came good that we did the other day. And this is a little too white now, so I'm going to take some color and kind of plop it in there. And if you recall, I took my tissue and started to blot it in an irregular way to make it look more like the foam of the ocean. This is, I think, a little too smooth. So what I think I'll do is bring this up a little bit more, maybe a little darker. Maybe bring it up in here a little bit, and maybe over here, so that it starts to look more natural. I can even get my spray bottle from this direction and spray. And even if I'm brushing it, brush in the direction of the letter C. Dab a little bit here and there. Now this little spritz, a little more dab, and you play with it until you like it. Remember, you can probably never get this painting to look the same twice. So when you like it, you're good. Make a few more dark spots. And I really think this looks pretty good now. It's ready for a signature. So give it a shot. It's really very easy and a lot of fun. And in the end, pretty much anything you get looks well. This is my painting that I just did. This was my original. Not exactly the same, but certainly very close. Have fun with this. Remember, if you need any templates, you can reach me at outrageous25@gmail.com. Have a great day.